The ruins were silent, the air was heavy, filled with dust and echoes of the past for thousands of years. Warriors of every alien race had come here. They had entered this broken temple, walked past fallen statues, and stood before the same glowing weapon. The sword, it floated in the air. Untouched by time, its blade was sharp, its edge shimmering with strange light. It gave no warmth, no sound, no movement. Yet every alien who dared to touch it was rejected. The sword would flare, pushing them back with force, sometimes burning, sometimes killing, and still no one stopped trying. Because legend said the one who held the sword would command destiny itself. But the sword chose no one. It watched, it waited, as if it was alive, as if it was searching for something different. Years turned into centuries, civilizations rose and fell. The temple around the sword cracked and broke. Yet the blade remained unmoved, silent, eternal. Aliens began to fear it, some called it cursed. Some called it the weapon of demons, but others whispered of prophecy. The one who would claim it would not be an alien at all. The one would be something else, something unexpected, far away. In a corner of the galaxy, humans lived simple lives. They were late to the stars, new to space, to aliens. They were weak, fragile, too emotional to matter. But fate does not ask for permission. It simply acts. One human, a soldier named Ethan Cole, found himself on a mission in these ruins. He was not a great hero, not a famous leader. He was just a man following orders. His unit had been sent to explore the ancient site, hoping to recover old technology. The aliens who watched laughed in secret. To them, humans were nothing but children playing with fire. As Ethan walked deeper into the temple, he felt the air grow cold. His boots echoed against stone floors. His flashlight flickered across walls covered with strange symbols. Symbols no human could understand. The deeper he went, the stronger the pull became. Something was calling him even though he could not explain it. He reached the central chamber. There it was. Floating in the middle of cracked stone and fallen pillars, the sword. It glowed softly, humming like a heartbeat. Ethan froze. He had seen many weapons before. But this was not just a weapon, this was alive. And it was watching him. Behind him, his commander shouted for caution. The team scanned the air, weapons ready. But Ethan heard nothing, nothing except a whisper. Faint and strange, it was not in words, yet he understood. Come closer. His legs moved before his mind decided. Every step was heavy, as if the air itself was trying to stop him. The other soldiers shouted at him, warned him, even tried to pull him back. But the sword's glow grew brighter as he approached. It wanted him, no, it needed him. At the edge of the platform, Ethan reached out, his fingers trembled. His breath shallow, every alien watching from distant screens held their breath too. Would the sword burn him, throw him back, kill him like it had killed others? Or would it stay silent? The moment his hand touched the hilt, the chamber exploded with light. The ruins shook, dust falling from the ceiling, walls cracking apart. The soldiers shielded their eyes, alarm screamed. Aliens across the galaxy turned their eyes toward the signal. The sword had awakened. Ethan fell to his knees, gripping the blade. But instead of pain, he felt power. It rushed into his veins like fire and thunder. The whispers grew louder, forming words now, words only he could hear. You are not chosen. You chose me. The soldiers stared in disbelief. The blade did not burn him, did not reject him. Instead, it glowed brighter. Wrapping him in a storm of light, the impossible had happened. The sword had accepted a human, far beyond the ruined temple. Alien leaders watched in horror. This was no accident, this was a turning point. The balance of the galaxy had shifted in a single heartbeat. The weapon that chose no alien had answered to a human hand. And nothing would ever be the same again. The temple was still trembling, dust hung in the air. Stones cracked under the weight of silence. Ethan stood at the center, holding the sword that no alien had ever claimed. His hand shook, not from weakness, but from the power flowing into him. The blade pulsed like a living heart, glowing brighter with every breath he took. The soldiers who came with him stared in fear and wonder. One whispered, "It should have killed him." Another whispered, "Why him?" But no answer came, only the sword's voice inside Ethan's mind, soft and sharp. You are mine and I am yours. Outside the ruins, alien observers could not believe their eyes. Screens across the galaxy showed the impossible. The forgotten sword had bonded with a human. Panic spread like fire. Some alien leaders feared prophecy. Others plotted war. No one wanted a human holding the most dangerous weapon in history. Ethan's commander barked orders. "Drop the sword, soldier." Now, but the sword would not let go. It was not just in his hand, it was inside him. He felt its presence in his veins, in his chest, in his thoughts. For a moment he feared he was losing himself, but then he realized something shocking. The sword was not controlling him. It was waiting for his choice. When they returned to the ship, silence filled the halls. No soldier dared speak to him, they avoided his eyes. Whispers followed him like shadows. The human who touched the untouchable. The human who might destroy them all. That night Ethan could not sleep. The sword whispered again. Fragments of visions, images of battles long ago. He saw alien armies falling, planets burning, stars collapsing into silence. He saw a race that no longer existed. Tall and proud, their eyes glowing like suns. They had forged the sword and then vanished. Why did they vanish? Why did they leave this blade behind? The sword would not answer, it only whispered, "Survive, and you will learn." Far across the stars, councils of alien empires argued. The Kareth, with their silver scales, demanded the human be executed. The Vera, tall beings of crystal flesh, warned that killing him might wake greater danger. The silent machine race, the Drex, offered only one message: destroy the human or prepare for extinction. Ethan knew none of this yet, but he felt the weight of eyes. Everywhere he went, soldiers stared. Even his own people feared him. And when he looked at the sword, glowing faintly at his side, he feared himself. On the third day, the attack came. An assassin slipped onto the ship. Not human, not soldier, but alien, its skin shifting like liquid metal. It crept through the corridors, blades hidden in its arms. When it reached Ethan's quarters, the sword was already awake. Ethan grabbed the hilt just as the assassin struck. The blade flared with light, blinding, burning. The alien screamed as the sword cut through its body like fire through paper. In seconds, the attacker was ash, the walls blackened. Alarms roaring, Ethan stood alone, the sword humming with calm satisfaction. When the smoke cleared, soldiers rushed in. They looked at Ethan with terror. He was alive, untouched. The alien assassin destroyed. But none of them cheered, none of them spoke. Because what they saw was not a man defending himself. What they saw was a man carrying power no human should have. Ethan dropped to his knees, breathing hard. The sword's voice filled him again. You are hunted because you are different. You are feared because you are free. But remember this, Ethan Cole, I did not choose you. You chose me, he whispered back. Why me? I am no hero, no leader, just a soldier. The sword pulsed with light. Because heroes die, leaders fall, but a soldier endures. Far away, messages spread across alien networks. Across secret channels, one fact was now known by all. The sword had awakened, it had awakened for a human. And that human's name was Ethan Cole. Some aliens trembled, some prepared armies, and some, in the deepest shadows, whispered one word with dread: war. But Ethan did not yet know the full truth. He only knew one thing. His life was no longer his own. The galaxy had changed, and he was at the center of it. The sword in his hand was not a gift. It was a burden that would test him, break him, and maybe change everything. The first attack came at dawn, Earth's sky filled with fire. Thousands of alien ships descended, their engines burning bright like falling stars. Cities shook, alarms screamed, and millions of humans looked up in fear. For the first time in history, Earth was under full invasion. Ethan Cole stood at the center of the storm. He had returned with the sword, but now there was no time to rest. The alien empires had decided. The human who carried the ancient blade was too dangerous to live. If he died, humanity would fall back into silence. If he lived, the galaxy itself might change. The alien fleets were led by the Kareth, warriors with scaled bodies and golden armor. They believed honor came only from conquest, and destroying Earth would bring them eternal glory. Behind them, smaller empires joined, seeking to crush the humans before they grew strong. The human defense forces rose to meet them. Old ships, weak weapons, untested soldiers, they were brave. But compared to the alien armadas, they were fragile as glass. Still, humanity had no choice but to fight. And at the center of their defense was Ethan, the soldier who held the sword. The battle began above the atmosphere. Explosions lit the darkness. Metal broke, fire spread across the void. Human ships fell one by one, each loss a wound to Earth's heart. Ethan felt the sword burning in his hand. It was not just metal, it was alive. pulling him into the storm on board the command ship. Generals shouted, "Protect him, protect the sword," at all costs. But assassins already moved among the chaos. Alien strike teams broke through defenses. Hunting for Ethan alone, the battle outside was a war. But inside, it was a hunt Ethan fought like never before. The sword moved as if it already knew his enemies when an alien soldier lunged. The blade cut before Ethan could think. When a plasma shot flew, the sword flared with light, bending energy away. It was as if the weapon had fought 1,000 wars and remembered every strike. But every use drained Ethan. Every swing burned deeper into his body. He felt strength leaving him. Even as victory grew closer, then the moment came. A massive alien warship broke through the defense line. Its cannons turned toward Earth, glowing with deadly energy. One blast could erase an entire city. Human ships tried to block it, but they were crushed like paper. Panic spread across every channel. "Earth is lost," the soldiers cried. But Ethan stepped forward, the sword in his grip. His voice was calm, his eyes burning. "Not while I breathe." He launched into the battlefield, carried by a dropship. As the alien warship prepared to fire, Ethan leapt into space. The sword glowed brighter than the stars, wrapping him in a storm of light. Every alien eye turned in shock. The human was flying, the blade pulling him forward like a comet. He crashed onto the enemy ship, cutting through armor that no weapon had ever broken. The sword screamed in his mind, a voice both fierce and proud. "Now you understand. Power is sacrifice." Ethan drove the blade into the warship's core. For a moment, time froze. The weapon and the ship seemed to merge, light burning brighter and brighter. Then came the explosion. A wave of fire spread across the void, swallowing hundreds of alien ships. The sky turned white. The earth below trembled, and silence followed. When the light faded, Ethan floated in space, the sword still in his hand. But his body was weak, his breath shallow, his strength almost gone. The sword whispered softly, "You lived, but at a cost." And then it went silent again, as if it too was drained. On Earth, humanity cheered for the first time. The aliens had been forced to retreat. The invasion was broken, the fleet scattered. But even in victory, fear remained because every soldier had seen it. The power of one man with one sword, a power too great for comfort. Across the galaxy, alien councils raged. The Kareth swore vengeance. The Drex calculated new paths of extermination. The Vera argued for caution, whispering that the human had awakened destiny itself. And in secret, spies carried one message across the stars. The war has begun. Ethan returned to Earth a hero. Crowds called his name, songs were sung, banners raised. But he felt no joy. He had seen the destruction. He had felt the cost. Every victory with the sword demanded a piece of his soul. And deep inside he wondered, was he truly a savior? Or was he the beginning of something far darker? That night, as the world celebrated, Ethan stood alone. The sword rested against his shoulder. Glowing faintly in the dark, he whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." And somewhere far away in the ruins of forgotten worlds, a presence stirred, watching, waiting, smiling. The battle for Earth was won, but peace did not follow. Smoke still rose from ruined cities. Families mourned, soldiers buried their dead. And though alien fleets had retreated, their threat had not ended. Ethan Cole knew this truth. Even as people around him cheered his name, he walked through the crowded streets, banners waving, children shouting with joy. They called him savior, hero, chosen one. But Ethan did not feel like a hero. The sword at his side hummed faintly, as if it too knew the weight of what was coming. Every night it whispered in his dreams, warning him, victory is not the end. It is the door inside hidden chambers. Leaders gathered. Generals, politicians, scientists, all whispering about Ethan. Some wanted to crown him as the symbol of humanity's rise. Others feared him, feared the sword, feared the power they could not control. And in those shadows, seeds of betrayal began to grow. Among the doubters was one man named Commander Vance. He had fought for Earth his whole life. He had lost friends, family, and trust in promises. To him, Ethan was not a savior, but a danger. He saw in Ethan not hope, but the end of humanity's freedom. "If one man holds all the power," Vance whispered, "then the rest of us are slaves." While humans argued, alien spies listened, messages carried across the stars. The Kareth promised riches and power to any human who delivered Ethan alive. The Drex offered technology that could make men immortal. And in the heart of this storm, Commander Vance made his choice. He would betray Ethan for what he believed was the good of mankind. The betrayal began with whispers. Orders changed, patrols redirected, security weakened. One night, while Ethan trained with the sword, alien assassins slipped through human defenses. They moved like shadows, silent and sharp. But the sword was awake. Ethan spun, the blade blazing with fire. Cutting them down in seconds, the attack failed. But it raised a question Ethan could not answer. How did they get inside, past every guard? Doubt spread through the ranks. Soldiers began to question their leaders. Leaders began to question Ethan. Some said he was attracting the war. Some said the sword itself was cursed. And Ethan, though strong, felt the weight of those stares. He was no longer just a soldier. He was becoming a symbol. And symbols are dangerous. One night the sword spoke clearer than ever before. "Beware the hand behind you," it whispered. But Ethan did not understand. He trusted his people. He trusted his commanders. He did not see the shadow that was already moving against him. It was Commander Vance who struck first. He leaked Ethan's location to the aliens. A secret message carried through coded signals, and soon, above a lonely moon where Ethan had been sent on patrol, an alien fleet appeared, silent and ready. They did not come to destroy, they came to capture. Ethan's ship was surrounded. Dozens of alien soldiers stormed the halls. Blasters fired, alarms screamed. The crew fought bravely, but they were overwhelmed. Ethan stood in the center, the sword glowing like a burning sun. He cut down wave after wave, the blade moving faster than thought, but there were too many. And for the first time, the sword felt heavy, as if betrayal itself had chained it in the chaos. Commander Vance stood in the shadows, watching. He saw Ethan fall under a net of energy. Trapped, the sword ripped from his hands. Vance whispered, "Forgive me, soldier. But no man should hold such power." And with that, he turned away, leaving Ethan to his captors. The aliens bound Ethan in chains of light. The sword was sealed inside a crystal case. Silent and dim, they dragged him onto their ship. For the galaxy, it was a victory. For humanity, it was a fracture. For Ethan, it was the beginning of a nightmare. As the alien ship vanished into the stars, Earth remained unaware. People still celebrated their hero, not knowing their hero was gone, not knowing betrayal had already poisoned their hope. And far away in a dark chamber of alien council, voices laughed. "The sword is ours at last," they said. But in the corner of that chamber, the sword pulsed faintly. As if awake, it was not finished, it was waiting. Because betrayal was only the first step. The true war had not yet begun. Chains of light bound Ethan's arms. Cold metal walls surrounded him. The alien ship carried him through endless darkness. And for the first time since touching the sword, he was truly alone. The blade had been locked inside a crystal prison. It no longer glowed, no longer whispered. Without it, Ethan felt hollow. His strength was fading, his hope bleeding away. He wondered if this was how all the others had felt. Those who had tried to claim the sword and failed. In his dreams, the sword returned. It did not speak in clear words. It showed him visions broken and strange. A battlefield under dying suns. Alien warriors falling one by one. The creators of the sword, tall, radiant beings arguing, shouting, afraid. He saw them forging the blade not as a weapon, but as a prison for power too dangerous to control. When the vision ended, he woke in chains, sweat on his brow. And he understood one truth. The sword had not chosen him. He had chosen it, and that choice had meaning. Meanwhile, on Earth, silence turned into fear. Ethan was missing. The sword was gone, rumors spread. Some said he had abandoned humanity. Others whispered he had been killed. Commander Vance hid the truth, claiming Ethan had gone on a secret mission, but doubt grew. Without Ethan, without the sword, humanity felt small again. The hope that had risen after the first war began to crack. On the alien ship, days passed without measure. Guards mocked him, calling him weak, calling humans nothing. Yet even in chains, Ethan did not bow. He listened, he watched, he waited, and at night the dreams returned. The sword whispered clearer this time. "I am not your master," it said. "I am your reflection," Ethan asked. "Then why me? Why not the thousands before me?" The voice answered, "They reached for power. You reached for survival. That is the difference." The next morning, rebels struck. A small group of alien prisoners staged a riot inside the ship. They were not fighting for Ethan. They were fighting for their own freedom. But chaos is a weapon, and Ethan used it. He broke free from his chains, stealing a guard's weapon. His body was weak, but his will burned bright. Through smoke and fire, he reached the chamber where the sword was held. The crystal prison shimmered. Pulsing with cold light, alien guards surrounded it. Blasters ready, Ethan charged. Fighting with desperation, every strike was clumsy, every step heavy, yet he pushed forward because the sword was not just a weapon. It was a part of him. At last he touched the crystal. The moment his hand pressed against it, the prison cracked, the blade flared awake. Shattering its cage, light filled the chamber, burning through alien weapons. The guards screamed, falling to the ground. The sword floated into Ethan's hand as if it had never left. Its voice roared inside his mind. You endured. So I endure. Power surged through him. Not the blind fire of before, but something steadier, deeper. He felt the blade adjust, changing. It was no longer the sword of its creators. It was becoming the sword of Ethan Cole. A human sword born from human will. He cut through the halls of the ship. Rebels and prisoners following him. The aliens tried to stop him, but the sword bent their weapons, broke their machines. In minutes, the ship was burning, drifting, broken. Ethan led the survivors into escape pods as the alien vessel exploded behind them. Ethan looked down at the sword in his hand, and for the first time, he did not fear it, he understood it. It was not a gift, not a curse, not destiny. It was a mirror, showing the truth of whoever carried it. And now it reflected him, far across the galaxy. Alien councils trembled at the news. The human had not only survived capture, he had grown stronger. Whispers spread of prophecy, of doom, of rising fire. Some said the sword was no longer ancient, it was reborn, and that rebirth would change the galaxy forever. On Earth, the truth came like thunder. Ethan returned, not as the same soldier who had left. He returned as something greater, his eyes sharper, his voice heavier, the sword at his side glowing with new life. When soldiers looked at him now, they did not see weakness or danger. They saw a leader, but deep inside, Ethan knew the cost. The sword's secret was not only its power, its secret was the choice. Every time he used it, every time he carried it, it demanded a piece of him, and one day, the final piece might be taken that night, as stars shone over Earth. Ethan whispered to the sword, I chose you once, and I will choose you again. The blade hummed softly, and for a brief moment it almost sounded like it was smiling. The galaxy had changed. Whispers carried across every star system. A human held the sword. A human had broken free from alien chains, and now, a human was leading his people into the unknown. For centuries, humans had been ignored. They were late to the stars, weak compared to ancient empires. But after Ethan Cole's battles, everything was different. Aliens who once mocked now watched with fear. Aliens who once ruled now argued among themselves. The balance of power was shifting on Earth. The great halls of government filled with voices. Generals, scientists, leaders all speaking of one thing. Should humanity rise or should we hide? Some demanded expansion, building fleets, claiming worlds. Others warned of danger, saying humanity would be crushed if they moved too fast. And at the center of every debate was Ethan. The soldier with the sword. He did not want power, but power had already chosen him. Wherever he walked, crowds gathered. Wherever he spoke, soldiers stood straighter. The people no longer saw him only as a savior. They saw him as a leader, and leaders cannot hide. The sword itself seemed to sense the change. It glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with Ethan's heart. It no longer whispered only of survival. It whispered of destiny, of war, of choice beyond Earth. Alien factions moved. The Kareth gathered their armies. Swearing vengeance, the Drex built machines in the dark. Preparing for extermination, the Vera split into two sides, one urging peace, one demanding holy war. The galaxy was no longer steady. It was trembling on the edge of chaos. But among the stars, not every race wished for war. Some had suffered under the old empires. Some had lost hope of freedom. Now they looked to humanity, small but brave, and they whispered, maybe these humans are different. Ethan traveled beyond Earth. He met alien rebels, broken tribes, scattered fleets. He did not promise them conquest. He promised them something rare, choice, freedom. And for the first time, aliens began to fight beside humans, not out of fear but out of hope. The rise of humanity was not easy. Their ships were weak, their weapons outdated. But united they were dangerous, and with the sword at their side, they were unstoppable in battle after battle. Ethan led fleets across the stars. his blade tearing through enemy armor, his presence turning fear into courage. Every victory was hard, every loss heavy, but step by step, humans carved their place among the stars. Still, Ethan felt the cost. The sword was growing stronger, but so was its hunger. Every time he used it, he felt it take more from him. Not just strength, but something deeper, a piece of his spirit. He wondered if one day he would be nothing but an empty shell carrying a blade of light. One night, as he stood on the deck of his flagship, the sword whispered again. "You are not the first to lead with me, and you will not be the last," Ethan asked softly. "Then what am I? A savior? A destroyer?" The blade answered, "You are a choice made flesh, and all choices carry weight." As battles raged, the galaxy took notice. No longer was humanity a weak, forgotten race, they were a rising force. Unpredictable and dangerous, some alien races allied with them. Others plotted to crush them before they grew too strong. But no one ignored them anymore. In the shadows of the galaxy, a secret map was discovered within the sword. Lines of light glowing across its blade, it pointed to a dead world. A place where even stars feared to shine. The final battlefield of the ancients. The place where the creators of the sword had vanished. The place where answers and danger waited. Ethan looked at the map, his heart heavy. He knew this was the path forward, but he also knew it might lead to the end. Around him, humans cheered their victories. Allies pledged loyalty, enemies swore revenge. The galaxy was ready for war, and Ethan stood in the center of it, holding the blade that had changed everything. The rise of humanity was no longer a dream. It was real, burning, unstoppable. But every rise casts a shadow. And beyond the stars, in silence and darkness, something ancient stirred. Something that had been waiting for the sword's return. And it whispered with hunger, "The human comes." The map carved into the sword glowed like fire. Its lines stretched across the galaxy, leading to one place, a dead world, a world where stars had burned out long ago, the place where the ancients had vanished, the place where destiny waited. Ethan Cole stood at the center of his fleet. Human ships and alien allies gathered around him. The rise of humanity was complete. But the war was not finished. The final battle was calling. The closer they came to the dead world, the darker the stars grew. It was as if light itself feared to touch this place. The planet below was broken, scarred, silent. Yet in its silence, power pulsed like a heartbeat. The sword hummed, shaking in Ethan's hand. "This is where it ends," it whispered. "This is where truth waits." The fleets clashed above the dead world. The Kareth came with their burning ships. The Drex unleashed endless machines. The Vera split, half fighting, half defending. The galaxy itself seemed to have gathered in one storm. Lasers cut across the black, fire burned in silence, all for the blade carried by one human. Ethan led the charge, his sword cut through metal, through fire, through fear itself. But as the battle raged, he felt something calling him below. Not an enemy ship, not an alien commander, something deeper, older, hidden on the surface of the dead world. He knew he had to go, the sword demanded it. He descended to the planet, walking through endless ruins. The ground was littered with bones of beings long gone. Pillars of stone stretched into the sky, cracked and fallen. At the center of it all stood a massive chamber. Sealed for millennia, the sword glowed brighter, guiding him forward when he stepped inside. Silence swallowed everything. In the heart of the chamber, he found it not a weapon but a machine. A device older than any empire. Its core burned with energy that could erase galaxies. The sword pulsed in his hand, whispering its secret. "I was not forged as a weapon, I was forged as a key." Ethan's breath caught. The truth was clear, the sword was not meant to win battles. It was meant to open this machine. A weapon of final destruction. One strike and entire civilizations would vanish. One command and the galaxy would kneel. The chamber shook as alien leaders arrived. The Kareth commander roared, "Use it and rule us all." The Drex machine voice echoed, "Use it and erase us all." The Vera priest whispered, "Use it and become a god." Behind them, human leaders shouted, "Ethan, protect us. End them before they destroy Earth." The galaxy stood divided. Every voice cried for power. Every eye turned to Ethan, and in his hand, the sword pulsed like a living heart. He stared at the machine, he stared at the blade. He stared at the faces of every race, human and alien alike. And he knew the truth: if he used the machine, he would save his people. But he would also become the very thing the ancients had feared. A ruler with power too great to be human. A destroyer, not a savior, the sword whispered. The choice is yours. Ethan closed his eyes, his grip tightening, and in that moment, he remembered the words he had spoken long ago. I am not a hero. I am just a soldier. He raised the sword high. But instead of striking the machine, he drove the blade into the ground. The chamber shook, light erupted. The machine screamed, its power unraveling. The sword shattered into fragments of light. The weapon of the ancients was gone, its secret sealed forever. The armies outside felt the shockwave. Ships trembled, weapons went silent, the battle stopped. Aliens and humans alike looked to the planet below. And for the first time in history, there was no war, only silence. Ethan fell to his knees. The sword was gone, its voice silent. He felt weaker than ever, but he also felt free. He had not chosen power, he had chosen peace, and that choice would echo forever. When he returned to his fleet, his people cheered, not because he had destroyed his enemies, but because he had shown them something greater. Humans did not rise by conquest, they rose by choice, by sacrifice, by proving they were more than war across the galaxy. The story spread. The human who carried the sword, the human who could have ruled, the human who chose to break it. Aliens no longer saw humanity as weak. They saw them as something new, something different, something dangerous in a way no weapon could match. Ethan looked at the stars one last time. The war was over, but his journey was not. Without the sword, he was only a man again. But maybe that was enough, because in the end, it was never the sword that changed the galaxy. It was the human who carried it.